Okay, so you want to know how I made my first $1 million. Well, I'm going to tell you that I didn't. I actually made $1.5 million when I did make it that big. So during the course of my life, I worked as a realtor in Dubai. We had fast-paced transactions. We were selling very, very speculative real estate, which meant that there was a lot of real estate that hadn't gotten built because Dubai was a new city and all this freehold stuff was all brand new. And I was making probably, I would say in my early teens to probably late 20s, a couple $100,000 here and there every single year, just doing transactions. I initially started out in AUD. That's where I studied, by the way, in Dubai, the American University in Dubai, for those of you who don't know what AUD is. And I initially started by selling apartments to my friend's parents. So at that time, let me explain to you what the landscape was like. Dubai was one of the first cities to have an American accredited university in that Middle East region. So we had a lot of people flocking in because they wanted that American accreditation for their degree. So if they wanted to work internationally or whatever it was, anyways, the university was extremely hyped up and a lot of foreign students from the area, from the region, were coming in and studying. Now, all these people wanted a place to stay. Some of them, who were more conservative, I think were staying in the dorms, but the dorms at the time were extremely small. So a lot of these people ended up renting apartments close to the university. And I remember very specifically, there was an apartment community called the Greens community, and it was right opposite AUD. And the apartments at that time were selling for extremely cheap. I'm talking like 200,000-300,000 dirhams, which is less than $100,000. And the location was nice, they were brand new, and a lot of students' parents could actually afford those. That's kind of how I got my break. I started talking to people and realized that a lot of parents want to buy their kids apartments so that they can stay, and it would also be an investment so that once their child was done with the education, they could actually sell it for a profit. So not only are they not paying rent, they're making profit, which would probably cover a portion of the child's education as well. Anyways, started dealing with those parents, learned very quickly how investor mindset works, how people work, how people operate, and started trading. Meaning I became a realtor, and now I started buying, selling for people. And what I quickly learned is that people liked making money back then. And it was really easy, quick money for a lot of investors. So a lot of people would come back to me, would become my repeat investors, and be like, Hamza, you bought this for me, could you sell it for me? And then somebody else would be like, hey, I need to buy something. And so I kind of took control of that whole AUD kind of market. And I was lucky to be able to do that because later on in life, when I graduated university, a lot of my friends ended up working in Amar, which was one of the larger developers there, and were able to give me access to apartments that nobody else could get access to at the time. And that really helped me because these investors, as I matured, as I grew, all of these investors matured and they grew as well. And now they had bigger dollars because they were more comfortable with dealing with me and more comfortable because they had made money in the smaller projects from my AUD days. So basically, as these investors grew, as did I, and we started trading, and I took all my commissions at the time. Of course, I was spending a little bit. I'm into cars. So at the time, I used to buy a lot of cars and modify them and do the whole Dubai thing, But I ended up then realizing that, hey, I could put my own money as down payments in these speculative real estate assets and probably make a ton of money selling them to my investors or to other investors or whatever the case might be. Very quickly realized that the financial crisis was right around the corner, and I probably lost all, if not most of my money trying to just survive back then. So just to give you guys an idea, lived in a large home in Dubai. It was just me and my wife at the time. And then moved into a very small apartment community. I still remember that. You remember that, Sana? The small apartment community that we moved into? So we moved from a larger, like mansion style, I would call, for our age, and then moved into this really tiny apartment community because of the recession and because I had lost all this money playing in speculative real estate. Moved from there onwards, and then decided that that was not something that I was comfortable doing. Also decided that I wanted to now become an investor. I didn't really want to deal with just trading, because the more I bought and sold, I realized that the day I stop working is the day I don't generate any income. And I'm very lucky to have realized that very early on, because a lot of my friends who are today in their 50s and 60s, who were brokers for their entire life, realized that too late, and now they don't have skills where they can adapt and become something else. They're stuck doing this for the rest of their life. They're going to have to like probably die being like real estate agents or traders of traders in sorts, because that's the only skill set that they have. Anyways, I learned this very quickly, learned how to syndicate real estate, and that is really where I made my first 7 figures. Now, lucky for me, my first 7 figures was not $1 million. It was actually over $1 million. It was like closer to $1.5 million, because I had 2 projects working simultaneously. One of them made just over $1 million, and the other one made a couple $100,000. And that was when I really realized that I think this is the right way. Let me walk you through what exactly happened. So I moved to the US, I bought a piece of land, and then I realized very quickly that I needed to build it in order to generate some income and to be able to sell that land at a cap. At a cap means a finished product that was income generating, and that I could sell that product at a cap rate, meaning people would be buying an income rather than what I put in it. And so I decided to go ahead and start building this. At the same time, build relationships with investors, network like crazy. Probably looked up to a lot of people, tried to get in touch with them. Some of them I was successful, some of them I was not. But that was really when I realized that, okay, this is completely doable. So spend 2 years of my life developing my first flex space, and simultaneously got investors to invest in a small apartment community that I bought. Now, the apartment community, I know a lot of people here like multifamily, and multifamily is all the hype, but I truly believe that multifamily is all the hype only because the debt servicing for multifamily is extremely easy, and syndicating multifamily deals are extremely easy. The industrial stuff is now picking up to where I think it's going to evolve, and it's going to become the next multifamily, and maybe even surpass multifamily at some point, because the demand is so high. But point being, I made over $1 million with the flex spaces. I made a couple $100,000 syndicating the apartment community. And that was really when I was like, okay, well, I think I can do this again. So ended up taking those proceeds, reinvesting them in a property that I bought that was significantly larger. And I think that was the property when I really realized that I'm on to something. This is something much bigger than myself. And I was able to buy 12 acres, and I paid $1 million, $1,060. I remember, because the commission on that was $60,000, and the landlord wanted $1 million for that 12 acres. Then ended up somehow building a $20 million development and selling it before I even completed it. Now, that to me was fascinating. Now, this is when I really built true confidence. Once I realized that I could sell these things before they were completed, a matter of time until I could repeat this process. And now I had the banking relationships, I have the lenders, I have all the brokers, the insurance guys. Everything is in line for me to make this process extremely repeatable. And so, yeah, that is basically how I got started. That is how I made my first million. In fact, $1.5 million, like I just mentioned. And that is why I pivoted towards flex space real estate. Now, once again, I think that people on social media who are sharing only the good, whether it's apartment complexes, whether it's Airbnb, whether it's office real estate, whatever the asset class is, if these people are only sharing the positive side of that, I think all of that is trash, all of that is bullshit, and you guys should quickly run the other way. You need to talk to people who have either done many things successfully and are discussing not only their successes, like just now, earlier on, I told you guys about what happened to me in Dubai. Not many people are going to talk about this on social media. You need to be listening to somebody who is talking about the right stuff, which is the good stuff and the positive stuff in every business, like I do in my flex space, and how it's automated and how it's scalable and how it's easy to manage. But you also need to listen to the other side, which is me telling you all the problems, all the issues, all the hurdles, and how difficult it is sometimes to get there. Like if you bought a wrong piece of land, in my case, right? And it's just not the right piece of land and you made a mistake. We need to be discussing those type of hurdles because a lot of people do make those. But yeah, that is really what I am here for. That's why I'm putting out long form content. I want you guys to hear me, hear the successes for sure, but also hear about all the hurdles.